Have you ever heard of the silent houses? It's this bizarre phenomenon that started popping up in a quiet, forgotten corner of rural Oregon. This story isn't just weird. It's the kind of thing that makes you question what's real. And it all started with my friend, Sarah. You know, the kind of person who finds beauty in abandoned buildings and forgotten places. She wasn't into ghosts or anything like that. For her, it was about the history, the decay, the stories left behind. Her blog, Echoes in Dust, was getting pretty popular. She'd just come back from exploring an old asylum in West Virginia and was already itching for her next project. That's when she stumbled upon a forum post about a place called Whispering Pines, a small, isolated community in Oregon. The post was cryptic. Just a single line. The pines are quiet now. Too quiet. Intrigued, Sarah dug deeper. Whispering Pines wasn't on any modern maps. She had to cross-reference old county records and geological surveys from the 70s to even find a hint of its existence. It was a planned community, built in the late 60s by a company called Unsolved Development. The whole idea was to create this perfect, self-sufficient utopia away from the chaos of the cities. But by the early 80s, it just vanished. Not physically, but from all public records. The company dissolved, the residents scattered, and the town was forgotten. She spent a week planning her trip, packing her camera gear, a drone, and enough supplies to last a few days off the grid. I tried to talk her out of it. There was something about the whole thing that felt off. A whole town doesn't just disappear from the record without a reason. But you know Sarah, once she had an idea, there was no stopping her. The last thing I told her was to check in every 12 hours, no matter what. She sent me a text when she found the old, overgrown access road. A few hours later, a picture of a rusted sign, half swallowed by ivy. Welcome to Whispering Pines. The future is here. Her first video log was full of excitement. She described the houses perfectly preserved, mid-century modern homes, all identical, lined up in neat little rows. The furniture was still inside. Plates were on the tables, clothes were in the closets. It was as if everyone had just stood up and walked away in the middle of dinner. She called them the silent houses. There was no sign of a struggle, no vandalism, not even much dust. Just silence. She said the air was heavy and still, and the strangest part was the complete absence of wildlife sounds. No birds, no insects, nothing. Just the whisper of the wind through the pines that gave the town its name. Her second check-in came late. I called her, but it went straight to voicemail. I figured the reception was spotty. But then I looked at the photos she'd managed to upload to her cloud drive before losing signal. At first glance, they were just what she described. Houses frozen in time. But I started noticing the details. In one house, a coffee cup sat on the kitchen counter, a specific floral pattern. In the house next door, the exact same cup was in the exact same spot. A childish drawing of a sun with a smiley face was taped to a refrigerator in one home. 3 houses down, the identical drawing was on another fridge. It wasn't just similar. It was a carbon copy. Same brand of cereal in the cupboards, same clothes folded in the drawers, same newspaper from October 12, 1981, sitting on every single coffee table. It was a town of duplicates. This is where it gets really strange. Sarah's next video log was different. Her voice was strained, quiet. She was whispering. She'd found the community center. Inside, there was a large map of the town on the wall, but it was more like a circuit board. Each house was a node, connected by wires to a central building labeled The Conductor. On a long table, she found stacks of documents. They were psychological profiles, daily reports on the residents. Their moods, their conversations, their dreams, all meticulously recorded. The reports detailed something called the Harmony Protocol. It was a behavioral experiment. Etherid Development wasn't a real estate company. It was a front for a group of behavioral scientists. They believed that individuality was the source of all conflict. Their solution? To create a collective consciousness, to sync human minds until they all acted as one. The identical houses, the identical lives, it was all designed to erase individuality and promote a state of communal resonance. The residents were all volunteers, true believers in this twisted utopia. Sarah found the lead researcher's journal. His name was Dr. Alistair Finch. His later entries were frantic, unhinged. He wrote about the conductor, a powerful low-frequency signal broadcast from the central building. It was meant to soothe the residents, to align their brainwaves. But something went wrong. The signal was too powerful. Finch wrote, "The resonance is absolute. They are no longer individuals. They are echoes in a single mind. The silence isn't empty. It's full. Full of one single silent thought. I can hear it now. It's so quiet. It wants me to join." The final entry was just a shaky, scrawled sentence. "The pines are quiet now." That was the last video file Sarah uploaded. It cut off abruptly. Her 12-hour check-in window passed. Then 24 hours. I called the sheriff's department in the nearest county. I told them everything, sent them the coordinates, the photos, the video logs. They were skeptical, thought it was some kind of prank or viral marketing stunt. But I was persistent, and they finally agreed to send a deputy out to the location. 2 days later, the sheriff called me back. His voice was tired. He said the deputy found the access road, just like I said. He found the sign for Whispering Pines, but that's all he found. Beyond the sign, there was nothing. No town, no houses, no community center. Just miles and miles of dense old-growth forest. The deputy and his team searched the entire area marked on Sarah's map. They used GPS, drones, everything. It was as if Whispering Pines, and Sarah along with it, had been erased from existence. I refused to accept that. I tried to find any record of Etherid Development or Dr. Alistair Finch. It was like chasing ghosts. Every lead was a dead end. The company records were sealed or destroyed. Finch seemed to have no family, no academic history before his work at the Pines. It's like he didn't exist outside of that town. Buried deep in an online archive of declassified government documents, I found a reference to a project from the late 60s. Project Mockingbird is what most people know, the CIA's program to manipulate the media. But this was something else, a sub-project codenamed Project Echo Chamber. The goal was to research and develop methods of mass psychological control through environmental and sonic manipulation. The document was heavily redacted, but one of the listed research sites was an undisclosed location in rural Oregon. And the lead consultant? A name I recognized. Dr. Alistair Finch. So, what happened to Whispering Pines? My theory? It was a real place. A secret, government-funded experiment in mind control that went horribly wrong. When Finch lost control of the Harmony Protocol, when the residents became this silent, singular entity, the project was shut down, violently. I don't think the residents just left. I think the entire town, and everyone in it, was sanitized. But that doesn't explain what the deputy found. Or rather, what he didn't find. How does an entire town vanish? Some people I've spoken to in the conspiracy forums talk about strange energy fields, localized reality shifts. They believe the conductor didn't just sink mines. It warped space-time itself, pulling the town into some other dimension or timeline. It sounds crazy, I know. But how else do you explain a town existing one day and being replaced by ancient forest the next? And what about Sarah? The official story is that she's a missing person, likely lost in the wilderness. They called off the search after a week. But I know she found something. She got too close to a truth that someone somewhere wanted to keep buried. I think when she entered Whispering Pines, she stepped into a place that wasn't quite stable, a place that wasn't supposed to be found. Sometimes I look at the last photo she sent. In the dark glass, behind her own image, you can almost make out other figures standing in the living room behind her. Faint, shadowy outlines. All of them just standing there, watching her, silent. I still run her blog, Echoes in Dust. I've posted her story, all her findings. Most people think it's fiction, a clever horror story I made up. But some people, a small few, have reached out. They've sent me stories of their own. It seems Whispering Pines wasn't the only one. The experiment was bigger than I ever imagined. I don't know if I'll ever find out what really happened to Sarah, but I'm not going to stop looking. Because this story isn't over. The silence is spreading, and we need to find out why. Thanks for listening. If you know anything or have seen anything like this, please reach out. Stay safe out there.